I'm joined by Michelle Jennings today. She's CEO of Sanlam Group Risk at Sanlam Corporate. And we're talking about employee benefits and risk benefits in particular. And there's been this notion that the risk benefits haven't evolved over time or kept up with technology. But I believe, Michelle, you've got a different view. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chris. Sorry, and thank you so much for the invitation to have a conversation with you. I think you're quite right. In the past, there was this perception that group risk providers in particular really weren't innovative and weren't creative in their solutions, particularly around technology. And I think during COVID, we had to make some quick advances in technology, but unfortunately it was very operationally focused, really just on how could we process things more quickly, how could we engage with our clients electronically so that we could actually just do our daily jobs much better. But I think something that was really exciting that happened during that time was that other industries spent a lot of time investing in their technologies. And what we've seen coming through in the last while is some very exciting technologies in the medical space that we really believe can be used in the group risk space as well. And I'd like to just share a couple of those with you. The first one, Chris, is around mobile and smartphones, where we have seen great advancements that actually enable a lot more personalized engagement through the use of smartphones and mobile technology. And these phones can be used to gather data from individuals. And some really incredible advances that I've seen lately is that smartphones can now actually be used to do medical underwriting. Just through taking a photograph of a person's face and their physique, answering a couple of questions, a medical underwriting process can now be completed within the space of just a couple of seconds, a minute or two. Really, really impressive in terms of the quality of information that becomes available just through taking a photograph of a person. The second thing that I want to highlight is the huge progress that has been made very, very recently with regards to health data aggregators. One of those health data aggregators that I've been exposed to is one called Health Cloud. And through what I've seen, they are able to provide insurers, individuals, doctors, access to medical data that they have sourced from a multitude of sources. I've got a diagram up on the screen, and just to show that the types of things that they can collect data from, or the types of places that they can collect data from. It's either directly from the patient, they can get pathology reports from the laboratories, they can collect information from the pharmacies in terms of what scripts have been provided, or just smart devices, if people can connect their smart devices. There really is a host of information that they're able to collect. It's all upon permission of the member, by the way. It's not just something that they randomly do. And then they pull this into their systems and they make sense of it using analytics. And I think the ability for us to have access to this data is going to be a game changer for us. Furthermore, the third thing that I wanted to highlight is, again, back to the smartphones, how this can be used quite differently from the processes in the past, where instead of using an OT and sending them out to individuals or having wellness days at employers, we can actually use the smart technology to engage with members and do wellness management, even rehabilitation through the phone, making sure that persons actually adhere to their scripts and making sure that they actually follow doctors' instructions. So I really think that this is going to be a massive game changer for us. And in particular, what I like to say is that we are now getting to the point where there's this convergence of health and life insurance to the point that we're going to be able to prevent claims rather than price for claims. And that's the thing that makes me extremely excited about the future.
Well, that's fascinating, Michelle. I mean, I'm particularly intrigued by the technology that they use. You know, they say you take a photograph of somebody through a cell phone screen, and then what sort of things do they read?
So I've only seen a demonstration of this once, and I have one in my mailbox at the moment to actually do the same exercise on myself. So I'll be able to answer these questions in a bit more detail later. But at this point, what I've seen is that it takes a picture of a person's face, measuring the pallor of their skin, looking at certain things such as, I think it's blood flow through to the eyes. There's an image that's taken of the entire physique, so BMI can be established from that as well. So there's a whole, and a couple of questions are also answered as well. It's not just purely through taking a photograph, and it's through this aggregation of all of this information that the system can pick up that it's able to provide like a health score, which is relevant for medical underwriters.
Absolutely fascinating. So Michelle, tell me, how does this impact on the members? I mean, how does it translate through to the individual?
So firstly, group risk insurance is one of the most inclusive insurance types. We insure from the executives right through to junior staff members, so right across the board, extremely inclusive. So this type of technology means that we have got easier access to all the members. So if we needed to do medical underwriting, it's relatively easy access to get to them, as opposed to expecting people to come in to the nurse or sending a nurse out to them, which often resulted in people just not even going for medical underwriting, to be quite honest. And I think as soon as we can start to get to the point where we are proactively managing wellness through engagement through these apps that are sitting on a person's phone, we can actually see that it can lead to reduced sickness and absenteeism for employers, and that ultimately leads to reduced claims for medical insurers as well as life insurers. But for members, they should actually get to the point where they've got enhanced health and enjoy their lifestyles more. All of this leading to reduced stress, which again translates to fewer claims, which ultimately our goal is to see that we've got reduced costs of health and life insurance in the longer term. So it will literally just cost less for members to be insured for those emergencies that they insure themselves for.
Brilliant. And I suppose on inclusive schemes, that makes a big difference. If the more you can save on your costs, the more you've got for saving towards retirement.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true.
So, Michelle, with all this data available, I mean, how do you guys practically use all of that? How does that translate into your world?
Yeah. So Chris, as a financial services provider, we collect enormous amounts of data. We collect the data largely from employers in the employee benefits space, from intermediaries through our underwriting processes. There really is a huge amount of data. And before people start to panic, I just want everybody to know that we really do take POPIA very seriously. We do protect personal information. We don't use it for purposes that it was not intended. So just to allay any fears there. But we collect data such as income levels, ages, geographical spread. We look at the industries that people work in, and we use a lot of those types of things as rating factors. So in group insurance in particular, the salary levels, where people are located is quite critical from a rating factor perspective. So that's just one of those things. From an administration perspective, we can see where people are investing their money, if they've got any life events and changes that they're going through. And we try and reflect this data back to members through the access that they've got to their portals and their information on themselves and their savings, so that they or their intermediaries can help with their financial planning and decisions. We even use this data to drive our own strategies. So if we look, currently we've noticed that we've got a relatively low penetration in the SMME space. And so now this is a big focus for our business to say, well, how do we increase our exposure there? So as much as we say that we're a very inclusive type of business, I think there's a heck of a lot more that we can do to get to previously uninsured parts of the population as well.
Wow. Okay. So talking about the sort of privacy and things in terms of POPIA and all of that, and at what point in our evolution will insurers and medical underwriters start using a person's complete digital footprint? By that I mean the sort of social media, Facebook pictures, things like that, because typically in your rating of, say, for an example, a group of people with an administrative kind of profile, and you were to do a risk scheme for them, you would rate them as a fairly low risk in terms of their occupation. However, when you go and have a closer look at the actual staff, you might see that half of them, jump off buildings over weekends, and the other half are hanging out in the pub with their friends, hanging on to each other in a drunken stupor. And obviously, not only are they endangering themselves, but I mean, it doesn't correlate to your rating basis that you have on record. So my question really boils down to, at what point in time will people start taking this into account, and when will that start playing a role, if ever, in the future?
It's a really interesting question, Chris. At the moment in group risk, we don't look at that. But I do think through things like these health data aggregators, if you're starting to collect things from the devices that people are wearing, maybe indicating extreme high heart rates every now and again, it may be some warning signs that we need to look out for, and perhaps provide some sort of risk score for those individuals through that. So we don't use it yet, but I like the idea. I know that for on the retail side, I'm aware that there have been instances where social media has been checked to make sure that any sort of representations made by a person are accurate. And I'm also very aware that at claim stage, we have also gone to check social media to really get a good understanding if a person is representing that they're disabled or incapable of doing certain things, to see what the social media is reflecting that they're actually up to over the weekends. And that has really had some very interesting results.
Fascinating stuff. Michelle, we could probably talk all day. But I really want to thank you for your time. It's been a really great pleasure having you on, and look forward to chatting more to you in the future. Thank you very much.
Definitely. Thank you again, Chris.